What's up, you guys, and welcome back to Britney Automotive. Today we are going to be taking old piston rings out, gapping new piston rings, and setting new rings in. First step is obviously taking all your piston rings out. I basically just made sure that I didn't scratch up the pistons while I was doing it, and then cleaned each one, including the tops, with brake cleaner.
Spend a couple thousand just to cruise it. Shawty said she love me, but I swear she never prove it. I never tell her, but I put it in the music. Well, that's okay. All I wanna do is make
the brand of piston ring that I am using is, I believe you pronounce it MOLLEY, and I will leave their instructions up on the screen because they make it super easy for you to figure out. I am doing nitrous up to 200 horsepower, which they say is bore times 0.006, and same for my top ring, my second ring, and then I have a 3-part oil ring. I take, my bore is 4, and then I multiply that by 0.006, and I get 0.024, and that is what I will gap my ring sizes to. I kind of show you an up-close visual of what rings you are looking at. I obviously have 5 rings here. This is the 3-part oil ring, which is 2 very thin rings, and then this zigzag ring. And then I have one that is slightly thinner than the other. This is your top ring, it's going to be thicker, and this is my second ring that is a little bit thinner, but it's still really thick. Now, they have these marked to show you the top. MOLLEY puts an M on their top ring, and that means that it sits in their top. And then there is a tiny notch in the second ring to tell you that it sits on top as well. So I've already actually gapped all of my rings, but to show you how I do it, I place it in there just how it's going to be. So I find the top, which is the indent, because this is the second ring, and I carefully place it inside without scratching the walls. And I push it down. So once that's placed inside, you can see this gap right here, and you will take the correct size that you're looking for, which mine is 0.024, and then you will slip it in there, and it should fit all the way to the wall, and then you are good. And then carefully take it out. And the top ring, same thing, you will slip it in there just how it would be in the piston, so the M would go on top.
spend a couple thousand just to cruise it. Shawty said she love me, but I swear she never prove it.
Now, obviously, the rings aren't going to match up perfectly right out of the box. They're going to be tighter than what you need. So you're going to file them down to meet whatever size gap you need. So to demonstrate, if I had to file this one down, you make sure that the piston ring is touching both of these prongs, and then just give it slight pressure towards the sanding wheel and spin this, and it should sand it down. And then obviously it's going to be trial and error. You're gonna have to test fit it, see if the gap is correct, and if it's not, you just have to keep going. Just try not to go too much, because there's no going back. Now, when it comes to putting these rings onto your piston, obviously you need to make sure that the orientation is correct. So the M on the top ring is faced up, and the dent on the second ring is faced up. I have learned that you have to put this one in first, or it doesn't fit with one of these smaller ones. So the easiest way I've done this is to start with this one, obviously trying not to bend them too much. But the oil ring is probably the easiest one to put on. Slip that down, and obviously try not to scratch your piston while you do it, or break the rings. I have yet to do that, but I wouldn't put it past me. All right, so those 3 are put in, and then I've learned that putting the second one in before you put the top one in is a lot easier. So make sure you have your dent to the top, And then I kind of slide in one side and then work my way around the piston, just because I feel like it doesn't scratch it as much. And these should be pretty loose. If you can't spin the ring, then there's something wrong. Same thing for this one. Make sure that the M orientation is up. And I slide in one side, and this is kind of the hardest one just because it's so thick. And I usually do this in my lap. And there you have it. You have all 3 piston rings in.
Spend a couple thousand just to cruise it. Shawty said she love me, but I swear she never prove it. I never tell her, but
Now when installing piston rings, that is just fine the way that they are. Now when installing the pistons back into your block, it's going to matter which way this gap is facing. And on Molly's instructions, I will actually put them on the screen again to show you exactly what they want for which gap to go where. So now that you have a visual of the instructions, I'm going to show you what it means on the actual piston itself. So wrist pin center line is this right here, and then your engine front, and your top compression ring gap is going to be the top ring, and what they want is that gap to be on top there. And then for the second compression ring gap, they want it on the opposite side, so on the bottom technically. And then the oil expander is actually the bigger ring in the middle of the 3, and they want the meat to be anywhere in this area of the piston. And then the other 2, the top and the bottom, just need to be on either side here so that they don't match up. All right, so that's gonna be it for this week's video. I hope you guys learned something new about gapping your piston rings. I'm going to leave a link down below to my Instagram and my TikTok. They are where I typically post more urgent announcements or messages that might not get to YouTube, or they might take a while to get to YouTube. Also, I will be leaving a link down to HEATWAVE with a 10% off discount code for you guys to get these sweet safety glasses or just sunglasses for the summer. I also want to give a huge shout out to all of my sponsors: HOLLEY EFI, JEGS, MOTUL, SMALLWOOD Race Development. None of this stuff would be possible without them, and I thank them so much. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I will see you next week.
I just bought a new it. Spend a couple thousand just to cruise it. Shawty said she love me, but I swear she never prove it. I never tell her.